all the best boxing content, don't forget to like, subscribe, and punch that bell for notifications.
They're scheduled for 12 rounds, Rodriguez and Figueroa. Frankie Figueroa from the Bronx. Very confident. Worked with Ricky Hatton and Sugar Shane Mosley recently. As Buddy McGirt in his corner.
I explained the rules to both of you guys in the locker room, okay? Ya yo le di la instrucción en el locker room a ustedes dos, okay? Que era una pelea limpia, okay? Velo en la cabeza, vela. Esto aquí es bueno, ¿entiende? This is good, okay? All right, guys, good luck. Touchdown.
Pete Santiago, third man inside the ropes for this 12-round junior welterweight bout. A look at the ring experience, and you can see comparable numbers in terms of Figueroa, 65% of his fights ending by knockout. He had 3 straight up until a 12-round decision win against Noel Rodriguez on November 16th of 2007. Round 1 scheduled for 12. Southpaw Figueroa in those maroon trunks. He's a former amateur wrestler in high school, and he also wrestled 4 years in the Army. Didn't start boxing until he was 22 years old. He's now 29 years old. And he started boxing, Teddy, because he was watching Oscar De La Hoya against Tito Trinidad, and he said, you know, I'm a fast athlete, I'm a good athlete, I think I could do this. He was inspired by watching that super fight, and he went right to the gym and got at it.
All right,
He was off balance there.
Okay, you guys go.
Was Rodriguez, and they tied up.
Give me gloves, give me gloves, give me gloves. Okay, box.
Well, again, you see the height, as we said in the stay in the fight plan, and the length of Rodriguez. Now we're going to find out if he can use it.
You know, we got those media guide heights sometimes, Teddy. I know when you work with the New York Jets, you may see on paper an offensive lineman that's listed as 310. He looks more like 350, or a guy that's listed as 6'6". You stand next to him, he's more like 6'3". As we see Figueroa, the shorter man, getting to the inside. That's the way I felt when I met with these two guys yesterday, and when you see it in the ring today. Figueroa looks like a short 5'6", and Rodriguez looks like a much taller 5'9".
And one thing I'll tell you, though, about Rodriguez, and you're right, Joe, but a lot of times you see with a tall guy like Rodriguez, when the shorter man gets in close, he can easily catch him.
He's doing it here.
Standing up straight. And that's exactly what you see Figueroa trying to do. Once he gets in close, past those long arms, he's trying to take that advantage of Rodriguez and turn it into a disadvantage, where there's a lot of height and there's a big building in front of him.
Already a cut around the right eye of Luis Rodriguez. Opened up here in the middle of this first round, and he gets sent back to the ropes and now sprawling across the ring.
You know, a lot of times you wonder about the legitimacy of a record. 22-1. Rodriguez, this is his first fight in the U.S. And before it goes any further, one of the things that need to be said is that Rodriguez's only loss was a split decision to a 2-1 fighter. We'll see whether or not that bears out here with Figueroa having fought the better opposition.
Doesn't bode well on paper for Rodriguez. Left hand on the inside. Uppercut tries to come through. Rodriguez in that corner. Figueroa applies the pressure on the inside.
And again, 2 opportunities for Figueroa when he gets close. One is to go to that thin body. The other is to find Rodriguez standing tall.
Good first round for Frankie Figueroa. That is being called an accidental clash of heads, but you see the left hand scraping across the brow of Rodriguez, and you can see just a splatter of blood that follows it. So I don't know about that. Round 2 scheduled for 12. Good first round for Frankie Figueroa, the New York-based prospect. He was 25 of 78. Looked from our vantage point that he opened up that cut from that sharp left hand, but the cut around the right eye of Luis Rodriguez being ruled an accidental head clash. You see the punch tracks for the last round. The head shots, 21-6 advantage for the 29-year-old Figueroa. He has won 10 straight fights.
The man in charge of the cuts, Joe, for Rodriguez is Francisco Martinez Sr., and he has his whole clan, his whole family working. It's a real family affair in that corner. He's got his 2 sons in the corner with him.
Junior's the trainer. Francisco Martinez III, who was a Mexican Olympian in '96, is the assistant trainer.
Don't hold him,
So
don't
it's like
hold
a
him.
Martinez family reunion in the corner of Luis Rodriguez.
The key for Rodriguez is a pretty evident one. Not only stay on the outside and work and not allow the shorter Figueroa to get into his punching chamber, but to do damage to Figueroa while he's trying to cross off and cross forward into that real estate. You know, I've talked about it before, Joe, when a shorter guy's fighting a taller, longer guy. For the shorter guy, it's like he's got to travel through a bad neighborhood for a moment, you know? Maybe one block is a bad neighborhood, and you want to get through it fast. Well, that one block is the last 3 steps that Figueroa has to take to get close to Rodriguez. He hopes when he takes those steps, nothing bad happens. That he gets through those steps without any damage.
Went right through that bad neighborhood that time to the inside. Rodriguez now trying to place left hands to the body. Rodriguez and Figueroa at the end of 2 on Wednesday Night Fights. Tonight. Hopefully it'll serve him better than the first 2 rounds have gone here for him against Frankie Figueroa. Figueroa 18-2. Very confident. He's won 10 straight fights. Didn't know that he was fighting a much taller opponent until just 2 days ago. Says, doesn't matter that he's 5'9", 5'10". He's going to be 0'0" by the end of the night.
All right.
You know, it's a funny thing, even though Rodriguez is the bigger guy as far as height and length, obviously, Figueroa is the bigger guy as far as bulk.
No doubt.
Physical strength. Yeah, he's fought between welterweight and junior welterweight his whole career. Rodriguez has fought at lightweight and junior welterweight.
Very broad across the back, Teddy.
And that's why he wants to be close. Obviously, to transfer that bulk to the man without a lot of bulk. Pretty simple formula. Get close and use your greater bulk against the man's lesser bulk. In other words, tear apart the body.
There's a good shot by Figueroa.
What has to be disappointing right now for the backers of Rodriguez is not only that he's not standing on the outside, but he's not trying to take advantage of 1 or 2 punches on the outside as Figueroa tries to get close, because he knows Figueroa is going to be coming close because he can't stay on the outside with those long arms of Rodriguez. So you just wonder why Rodriguez doesn't come up with a better plan of planning an uppercut or something on Figueroa right now as he comes forward.
Good left hand from the southpaw Figueroa on the inside.
You know, one thing that I think is fair to say here, Joe, is that we talked about how Rodriguez, the taller guy, sometimes when you get in close to the taller guy, there's a disadvantage of being tall. You find that target, but Rodriguez is doing a good job the last round of trying to get small when Figueroa gets close. He's not standing so traditionally tall where Figueroa has that much target. You can see Rodriguez doing a little dipping, a little slipping, a little sliding, and shrinking himself. He's gone back to a place that used to be familiar, a smaller weight class, many, many years ago.
You saw on the list of the comparisons there and how his chest has gotten smaller. Obviously, his waist has gotten smaller. But the calf measurement, his calves have gotten bigger, Teddy. Went from 12 to the calf to 13.5 inches. And Chris says, so much running to take off the weight, he actually added muscle to the lower part of his leg.
Yeah, well, he had to take that weight off, and of course, a traditional way, effective way is running, and probably ran some hills too. You know, just probably traditional running probably wasn't enough to get him back to that weight class. So going up hills, take the weight down, make the calves bigger.
So Chris Bird coming up in our main event on Friday Night Fights. Frankie Figueroa having a good go of it here in our main event here on Wednesday Night Fights against the taller Luis Rodriguez.
You know, Figueroa just hurt Rodriguez with a left hand to the body about 20 seconds ago.
That's a big inviting target, that tall frame and lean body of Luis Rodriguez. Mexican native fighting for the first time in the U.S., and he does so in Figueroa's backyard. Figueroa from right here in New York. Now Rodriguez tries to go to the body himself.
Rodriguez jumping up in a level of competition much higher than what he's been fighting lately, Joe. Figueroa has been in with the much tougher competition in recent fights. I mean, I'll put the numbers to it. Rodriguez's last 5 opponents, 25 wins and 27 losses. And Figueroa's last 5 opponents, 73 wins, 42 losses, 9 draws. So Rodriguez is in a kind of fight that he just hasn't been used to. And you gotta wonder how long he can continue to handle the pressure being thrown at him by Figueroa. And the body punches, and now the head punches.
And a good straight left hand from Figueroa there. Now tries to put that left to the belt line. Combination lands well from Frankie as well.
Well, it's about geography, and seems like a lot of things about geography. It's the geography that is suiting Figueroa on the inside.
Working well right to the end of round 4.
All right, butts.
Frankie Figueroa, just moments ago getting his instructions from James Buddy McGirt, who said, I want to see you put that hook to the body. He does not like it down there at all. In the last 2 rounds, Figueroa has had a 76-34 connect advantage. Body shots, he's 27 of 73.
One of the combinations that Figueroa has used to build up the record of 18-2 so far in his career has been the right hook from the southpaw position to the body, and then the shoulder comes up, and he comes right back with the left hand to the head.
Teddy's scorecard has it a clean sweep in the first third of this fight, scheduled for 12. Figueroa in control. Let's look at the punch track numbers and get you up to speed on the total headshots. You can see Figueroa just hit the century mark, 101 of 294 and counting.
Sometimes fight plans are complicated. This one is, as we talked about on the stay in the fight plan, is pretty simple, Joe. Figueroa is getting close, being allowed to get close, getting close without taking on or taking in too much damage, and he's just going to work on that thin body.
Went to the body 4 consecutive times and then came back upstairs with a right hook.
And the lack of a fight plan, I guess that's probably the right way to say it for Rodriguez, is he's just forgetting to fight tall.
Just letting Figueroa walk right in that front door time and time again. As he does right there.
He's either forgetting that his physical assets pretty much determine and dictate that he should be on the outside, using those long arms and that height. But maybe the pressure of Figueroa is making him forget that, and obviously change his mind a little bit as far as the determination to stay on the outside.
The jab stat you saw moments ago speaks volumes. As Rodriguez has thrown 10 fewer jabs than Figueroa. Lunges in now, jumps in with a left hand as Frankie.
You know, it looked like he jumped in, and obviously he did cover that space by taking a little leap, but Figueroa set that punch up. He was dropping that right shoulder, looking like he was going to go to the body with the right hand, and then came up top with the left hand.
Figueroa well in control here. We come to the end of round 5 on Wednesday Night Fights from Gotham Hall. This is the ESPN Deportes up front. An opportunity for ESPN Deportes to showcase themselves and talk about their future to the industry and advertisers here in New York. It is upfront week as all of the networks are putting their best foot forward. We're glad to be a part of it with ESPN Deportes here on Wednesday Night Fights. Luis Rodriguez, his first fight in the USA, has won 6 fights in a row, but he is struggling here in a step up against Frankie Figueroa, who has won 10 straight himself. Punch track numbers. Average headshots landed for the last 3 rounds, and Figueroa way out in front, averaging 26 per.
Let go the hand.
Again, Figueroa putting Rodriguez in a compromising position, and Rodriguez being a little bit of a co-conspirator to getting into that position where he's on the inside with long arms, and it's hard to use long arms when there's no room. You need room for long arms. Short arms, you don't need room, and that's why Figueroa is having a good time, as you see it right now.
That space right there is to his advantage, and he's scoring with ease against Rodriguez. Just walked into a short left hand.
That's what Rodriguez must do if he's going to get back into this fight. Start punching at the right time and the right distance, right there, at that distance, right there again.
Right there, absolutely. At the end of those punches is Figueroa when he's at range, and that's the best that Rodriguez has looked so far.
And that's good news at the right time before this fight gets any later.
It's a good turnaround from Rodriguez here, kind of finding himself here in round 6 all of a sudden. Blood from the right eye has been well in control. That opened up in the first round.
And again, it's all about range, distance, and timing for both fighters. And this round, it's been about it for Rodriguez. Punching at the right time before Figueroa gets close.
Good straight left from Figueroa.
Well, no punches came from Rodriguez, so Figueroa, well, he came right across that line, that imaginary line where it becomes good for the short guy and bad for the tall guy.
Rodriguez had some of his best moments in this round, but Figueroa was still there every step of the way. See what Luis Rodriguez can offer up here in the back half of this main event. Round 7 scheduled for 12. Figueroa has been in control. Rodriguez showed a little bit of a surge in the middle of round 6, but still a 6th round that wasn't that bad for Frankie Figueroa. So even with Rodriguez's best efforts, Figueroa was still productive.
Yes, he was.
And on your scorecard, Teddy, best you could do is give it an even round. I have to agree with that. So 60 to 55, Figueroa in control.
Behind, okay?
It starts out good for Rodriguez, doesn't finish well. What I mean by that is he starts out in spots where he's at the right distance on the outside, but he doesn't stay there. He either winds up moving in and giving up his height on his own, or he allows Figueroa to move in without catching Figueroa on the way in.
Good body shot from Figueroa. Blood now coming from the nose also of Rodriguez. He's been dealing with a cut near the right eye since round number 1. It was ruled an accidental clash of heads, but we have a replay that shows pretty clearly that a punch did land also.
You could see Rodriguez being broken down bit by bit. I think mentally, emotionally, and obviously physically.
His mouth wide open here in round 7.
You know, it's a cliche. You hear it a lot of times. Sometimes your offense has to be part of your defense. That, I think, is a case in point for Rodriguez. He has to let his offense, especially on the outside, start being part of his defense to stop Figueroa from doing what he's doing, which is getting all over him like a cheap suit.
Got to throw some ammo at him, so he's not allowed to just fire off.
Again, on the outside, before Figueroa crosses that Mendoza line, so to speak, where he's into his punching area, that's where Rodriguez has to pull the trigger, right there.
Goes straight back, and a right hand came with it from Frankie Figueroa, and now he follows that up with a head attack.
All right, break.
Coming to the end of round number 7, Figueroa in control. Has had some pretty strong influences recently in his career. He's complaining about the mouthpiece there.
Over here.
He's worked with Buddy McGirt. He also went to camp with Ricky Hatton. And he was in camp recently with Sugar Shane Mosley before Shane's fight with Zab Judah was canceled due to Zab injuring himself through a glass shower door. Round 8, Figueroa applying a lot of pressure.
Go to corner.
And a little reprieve here that Rodriguez, I think, is glad to get.
Pete Santiago taking a break as the tape around the glove of Rodriguez comes loose.
And how many times have we talked about this, Joe? Some commissions, you see they put that silver tape, that waterproof tape over the white adhesive tape so this doesn't happen. Because obviously once the fighters start sweating and water gets poured on them, the adhesive stickiness goes away and you get situations where the fight has to be stopped.
Of his sparring against Shane Mosley, Figueroa said 4 rounds seems like 10 rounds when you're in there with Shane. He really keeps you on your toes.
And he must feel like he's in with a pedestrian guy as far as speed now.
No doubt, going from Shane to this.
All right, break. No punches. No back.
Well, the hope for Rodriguez, the only hope is to punch again at about this distance and not allow Figueroa to get into this distance on the inside. Right now you can see Rodriguez desperate, turning southpaw, trying to turn things around a little bit. You know, if you're in the corner of Rodriguez, besides telling him to punch on the outside before Figueroa crosses over into his punching area, you might want to whisper some hope into his ears. And the only thing you could whisper now is if you knew your facts and you did your case study on your opponent, you could tell him, hey, Figueroa has been on the floor in his career. So there's still hope to pull this out of the fire. But again, Rodriguez is not pulling this out of the fire. The flames are engulfing him by allowing Figueroa to continually get in close.
Hold him. All right, break! Hold him on the back, okay, when you swing him.
More of the same from Frankie Figueroa.
You know, he was put in a lot of tough fights, and he learned how to fight even when he was losing, and it paid off for him later. He had the right attitude. But as you said, a lot of credit to Bradley, because not only did he go across the pond into foreign territory and hostile territory, but he fought a very awkward fighter, and with a tall, long, quick hands, and a southpaw, and a guy who stays on the outside, and very unorthodox. So again, credit to Bradley.
Witter hadn't lost in 8 years and 21 fights, but the Californian Tim Bradley earns himself a world title with his victory this past weekend.
And I think he earned it with the right hand, with the southpaw, because once he dropped Witter with that right hand, it seemed like the fight sort of started to evaporate a little bit from Witter, and he got more and more defensive and started to use that height offensively less and less.
Perfectly timed right at the halfway mark of that fight. End of round 6. He had that big sweeping right-handed Bradley. Scored the knockdown. Something that Luis Rodriguez could surely use here. The taller Rodriguez, the Mexican native, first fight in the U.S., and it's been a tough go of it against the attack of Frankie Figueroa, who's been very, very consistent. And he's up on Teddy's scorecard, 80-73.
I applaud the gameness of Rodriguez, but I just scratch my head at how he doesn't use those physical assets at all on the outside. And I also think a little bit about how the corner has to watch Rodriguez. You know, he's taking a little less punishment in this round, and it's slowed down a little bit. But Joe, we were watching it. We've been watching it with our great fans, and Rodriguez has taken and accumulated a lot of punches.
He has absorbed a lot. You saw the punch track stats moments ago. He has now taken 186 headshots in this fight. And these are the type of fights that can be really damaging. These long fights where a fighter never hits the canvas but takes a steady barrage of punches.
And the kind of fight where you have to think before you put Rodriguez in the next fight. I mean, this fight is not over with. The night's not over. It's still to be determined. But what is over and what has definitely been determined is Rodriguez has absorbed a lot of punches. So before you put him in again, you think about that. You think about what the quality of the next opponent will be and how quickly you put him in again because of the punishment he took tonight.
He's never gone the full 12 rounds. Meanwhile, Figueroa has gone 12 rounds twice in his last 2 fights. So the uphill gets even a little steeper for Rodriguez on that network, and we're glad that they're joining forces with us here for this card here in New York. Round 10 scheduled for 12. In that 9th round, Francisco Figueroa landed 13 more headshots. So 193-85 advantage on the headshots throughout the course of this night. And there's a right hook that lands again for the New York-based southpaw. Said he thought he'd get rid of Rodriguez in 7 or 8 rounds, but Rodriguez has hung in there tough, even though he's absorbed a lot of punishment. See blood now under that right eye. Blood also coming from the mouth.
and blood on my left hand.
Yeah, mine too.
And your right hand.
That's why my dry cleaner always looks funny at me every week.
What do you do?
Yeah, you know, that's been asked. That has been asked numerous times.
You go
what
away.
do you do? You come back with bloody suits every weekend. Well, at least you know they're not going to mess with your bill.
Yeah, they'd be a little afraid to do that. They think twice about that.
Rodriguez said he wanted to give the fans here in the United States something special. He did admit to us, it was among his first comments he said to us when we got to know him in our production meeting, saying, you know, I got to be honest with you, I'm a little bit nervous fighting for the first time in the United States and in a main event on national television. And it's understood, but maybe this was asking just too much of Luis Rodriguez.
Well, again, we jumped on it early. Sometimes a record can be deceiving. The heart of Rodriguez is evident, but the record can sometimes be a little deceiving. Great record of 22-1, but first fight in the U.S. is tonight, and as I said early on, his only loss was a split decision loss to a 2-2-1 fighter.
Rodriguez 22-1. Figueroa from right here in New York, 18-2. He has won 10 straight. Rodriguez, his last 5 opponents, a winning percentage under 50%. So that speaks to what you're talking about, Teddy. Would be careful of the record. And now he's going to be headed to uncharted waters for him in his career. He's never been past 10. More to come. Here at Gotham Hall, ESPN Deportes, their big upfront showcasing the network and their future to advertisers and industry leaders. And we are the centerpiece of that up front here. Wednesday night fights at the magnificent Gotham Hall here on Broadway in Midtown Manhattan.
I don't know if things could get any worse for Rodriguez, but as you mentioned at the end of the last round, he's now going into territory he's never been before. First time past 10, and Figueroa has been 12 rounds twice in his career.
Just went 12 rounds twice his last 2 fights.
Figueroa is starting to see more opportunities, I think not less. He sees when he gets in, of course, he can attack that lean body we talked about, and he can catch Rodriguez standing up. But I think right now he's seeing when he pushes Rodriguez back, he'll go straight back. And Figueroa can have opportunities to catch him going straight back. Part of what you bring into this ring and what Figueroa brings into the ring, obviously, is the background and the confidence of an amateur career. Figueroa was a 2001 New York Gold Glove champion, one of the most prestigious amateur tournaments in the country. And we have Gold Glove champ, a guy that won that tournament, I believe it was 5 times. Ryan Adams doing the punch numbers with us, along with Lee Groves and Nick Canobio.
That tournament will make local legends out of guys, such is the case with Brian Adams. Of course, Mark Breland, the ultimate New York Golden Glove.
Yeah, he is. I mean, he was just a legend. I think he won it 5 or 6 times, but a legend. I mean, people actually pulled out of the gloves just not to face Mark Breland. Of course, he went on to win a gold medal in the Olympics and then a world title.
He was as dominant as an athlete has ever been in any competition for that stretch right there when he was a prime amateur.
I'm talking about dominance. Again, Figueroa dominating with Rodriguez, dominating by catching him going back, and dominating by going to the body, and dominating by just working more. Again, Rodriguez might not fight tall, and he doesn't. He doesn't. But he fights hard, and he fights with tremendous heart. helmets, all these big boots, and now he's going to deal with the smaller guys. He's going to have an advantage. But look, we wish him all well. He's been a great ambassador in the ring and outside the ring. But one thing you can't get away with, Chris Burt, the last few years, things have changed for him. He's taken more punches than he ever used to take. He used to be a ghost in that ring. And he's taken more punches in the last 5 years with big guys. And that takes something out of you. So I don't care if you're dropping down in weight. You have to look at Chris Burt, the person and the fighter, and see whether or not some things have been taken away from him, and look at him very closely and just see if there's deterioration as a fighter. And I think you're going to see some of that. In some ways, it'll be pleasing because before you couldn't touch him, and not everyone wanted to see that. Now you can touch him a little bit more. He's very game. Again, a lot of people are going to say he's going to be revigorated at a lighter weight class, but again, I'm going to say, don't forget, at whatever weight class, he's taken a lot of punches lately, and let's take a look at how he looks as a fighter, whether it's a light heavyweight or a heavyweight. Let's just see whether or not we see deterioration. It's going to be interesting on Friday night to get a little barometer, a little litmus test of that.
That's coming up on Friday Night Fights. Teddy and I will be on assignment Friday night, so Brian Kenny and your former charge, Shannon Briggs, will be sitting in these seats to see Chris Burt. Final half of the final round here between Rodriguez and Frankie Figueroa. And Figueroa just doling out the punishment to Rodriguez. This fight never really changed course. It just became more of an exaggerated form of what Figueroa was able to figure out very early on.
And now you can see Figueroa maybe trying to set up sort of a curtain call punch. I think a left hand up top. He's dipping that right hand down again. And you can see he's trying to get the attention of Rodriguez to look at that right hand down low and maybe land, as I said, a big punch to kind of close the show out with the left hand. Again, Rodriguez might be playing into the hands of Figueroa. He may be fighting in the wrong dimensions, inside where he shouldn't be fighting. But one thing, he's fighting.
There's a straight left hand that scored well. Figueroa would love to close the show in style here in front of his home fans. Comes up top with the right hand that scores well.
Boxing fans, after 12 rounds of action, we go to the judges' scorecards. Juez Billy Costello, Judge Billy Costello, 118, 110, 118 to 110. Juez Tom Kazmarek, Judge Tom Kazmarek, 117, 111, 117 to 111. Y Juez Robin Taylor, Judge Robin Taylor, 116, 112, 116 to 112. All for your winner, todos para el ganador del decisión unánime, unanimous decision, and still NABF Junior Welterweight Champion, Francisco El Gato